Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are strapping ourselves in for a journey. A big one.
Definitely big.
Yeah, it spans what? 7 foundational books, 8 blockbuster films, theme parks everywhere, and a valuation that's just, well, huge. Rivals a small country's GDP, they say.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking, of course, about Harry Potter. One of the most, commercially successful, culturally impactful franchises ever.
Hard to argue with that.
It's a world so many of us feel we know inside out, right? But the material we've dug into, it really shows how much more there is when you look past the spells and the magic.
Exactly. You start looking at the literary roots, the massive business side of things, the complex reception it got. It goes deep.
So that's the plan today. The core subject is obviously the 7 fantasy novels by J.K. Rowling.
Right. But our mission here is to go way beyond just a plot summary. We want to uncover the foundations, the global legacy, really analyze what turned this pretty straightforward British school story
Yeah, at its heart.
into this estimated $25 billion empire. I mean, think about it. Over 600 million copies sold worldwide.
600 million. It's staggering.
It's the best-selling book series in history, period. So this deep dive, it's about giving you the full picture, the informed view.
Okay, 600 million copies. We need to unpack how that even happened. So let's start, maybe with the absolute basics. The narrative bedrock, lay the groundwork before we get into the business, the criticism, all that.
Sounds good. The foundations first.
Okay, the core narrative. Even though, like we said, most people know the basics, setting out the main conflict, the structure, it's pretty crucial for understanding the themes later on, the moral stuff.
Totally. So the series follows young Harry Potter, obviously, and his 2 best friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger.
The Golden Trio.
The Golden Trio, exactly. Students at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, navigating school life, friendships, and a looming dark wizard.
Right, and that conflict, that's the engine driving everything, isn't it? Book after book.
Yeah.
The struggle with Lord Voldemort.
He's the core antagonist, this dark wizard. He who must not be named in the early books. He has these very clear escalating goals that really shape the whole war.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, he's obsessed with becoming immortal, chasing it through, frankly, horrific means. Second, he wants to overthrow the wizard government, the Ministry of Magic.
Right.
And third, his aim is to subjugate basically everyone who doesn't fit his pureblood wizard ideal, and definitely all muggles.
Muggles being the non-magical people.
Correct.
And this huge story, this whole arc, it plays out across 7 books, kicked off with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in the UK in 97, and wrapped up exactly 10 years later, 2007, with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. That decade, it saw a massive cultural shift, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Few book series have ever had that kind of impact.
And the story behind getting it published, it's almost as famous as the books now. Real underdog stuff.
It really is. Bloomsbury published it in the UK, but then when it went to the US, Scholastic Press picked it up. And that's where we get the first kind of big change.
The title change.
Yeah, the title. Philosopher's Stone in the UK became Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone in the US.
How did they do that? I always wondered.
Well, the thinking at Scholastic was that American kids, or maybe their parents buying the books, wouldn't really connect philosopher with magic. They thought it sounded maybe too academic.
Okay.
So sorcerers felt more, magical, more commercial. Interestingly, Rowling later said she regretted agreeing to that change. She felt philosopher was more fitting for the themes.
That makes sense. And the idea for the story itself, it wasn't some long-planned thing, was it?
Not at all. It's quite famous now. Rowling says the whole idea of Harry, the school, the magic, just fell into her head back in 1990. She was on a delayed train, Manchester to London, 4 hours stuck.
Wow.
Didn't have a pen, apparently, so just sat there thinking for 4 hours, building the world in her head. And what's really amazing, showing her long-term vision, is she claims she wrote the very last chapter, the epilogue, that 19 years later, right back then, around 1990. Years before book 1 was even published.
She knew the ending from the start. That makes the rejections even crazier in hindsight.
Doesn't it? 12 publishers. 12. Turned down this manuscript that became the biggest seller ever. Finally, Bloomsbury took a chance.
But even they were a bit nervous, weren't they, about marketing it?
They were. The initial target was kids, 9 to 11, and crucially, they wanted boys to read it too. They worried boys might not pick up a book by Joanne Rowling.
Ah, right, the pen name.
Exactly. They asked her to use initials, something more gender neutral, so she became J.K. Rowling. He doesn't have a middle name, so the K is from her grandmother's name, Kathleen.
Just a marketing thing.
Purely commercial, yeah. To try and appeal to boys. It says a lot about publishing attitudes back then and how completely this series just smashed those assumptions later on.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the books themselves. Not just a list, but how the story grows and changes. Because the feel of the first few books is quite different from the later ones, isn't it?
Oh, completely different. The first three, Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, they have this wonderful blend. Part British school story, part classic mystery.
Yeah, they follow the school year, right?
Meticulously. Each book covers one academic year at Hogwarts, usually builds to a climax around final exams, with some big life-or-death confrontation that gets resolved within the school setting.
Book 1 is pure discovery, isn't it? Finding out he's a wizard.
Totally. Harry's 11, living miserably with the Dursleys, finds out he's famous, his parents were murdered. He ends up facing this weakened, sort of ghost-like Voldemort who's trying to get a body using the stone. The threat's real, but it feels contained.
And Chamber of Secrets brings in more mystery, but also something darker. The prejudice stuff.
Yes, the attacks on Muggle-born students. That introduces the whole blood status theme early on, Voldemort's core ideology. Harry finds out he can talk to snakes, Parseltongue.
Which everyone thinks is evil.
Right, it isolates him, makes him doubt himself. The mystery wraps up with Ginny Weasley being possessed by Tom Riddle's diary Voldemort as a teenager, basically unleashing the basilisk. But again, it's resolved within Hogwarts. Harry destroys the diary.
Prisoner of Azkaban, though? That one feels like a step up in complexity. Still a mystery, but darker. More about trauma.
Arguably the peak of that early style. It introduces the Dementors, these terrifying creatures that feed on happiness, representing trauma and depression. Harry has to learn the Patronus charm from Professor Lupin to fight them.
And the plot twist is brilliant.
It's fantastic. Harry thinks Sirius Black betrayed his parents and is after him, but the real villain is Peter Pettigrew, hiding as Ron's rat Scabbers for 12 years.
Incredible.
It shifts the focus from just who's the bad guy to who can you actually trust, and the use of the time turner at the end. It's a clever way to use the established magic rules for a really tight resolution.
But that's kind of the end of that phase, isn't it? Goblet of Fire feels like a massive turning point.
It's the pivot, absolutely. The series shifts gear dramatically. It moves from that contained school story mystery into something much bigger, more like a political thriller, a war story starting to brew.
With the Triwizard Tournament.
Exactly. Hogwarts hosts this dangerous competition. Harry gets entered against his will, which turns out to be the whole point. It's a plot to get him to a specific place at a specific time.
And the ending is just devastating.
Brutal. Cedric Diggory's death right in front of Harry. And then Voldemort's full, terrifying resurrection using Harry's blood. And the reveal that it was Barty Crouch Jr., disguised as Mad-Eye Moody all year, who orchestrated everything.
Chilling.
It shows the enemy is organized, ruthless, and operating way beyond Hogwarts now. The game has changed.
And after that, the tone just gets darker and darker. Order of the Phoenix is all about denial, isn't it? The government refusing to believe Voldemort's back.
Precisely. Political apathy becomes a major theme. The Ministry of Magic buries its head in the sand, installs Dolores Umbridge at Hogwarts. She's this terrifyingly petty tyrant.
So the kids have to take matters into their own hands.
They form Dumbledore's army, learning defense in secret because the official channels are failing them. It really challenges the idea of just trusting authority. And the book ends tragically again with Sirius's death at the Ministry.
Which happens because Harry falls into a trap set by Voldemort.
Yes, exploiting Harry's visions. And crucially, that's when the prophecy is fully revealed. Neither can live while the other survives. The fight is now personal, inevitable, absolute.
Book 6, Half-Blood Prince, feels different again. Slower, more focused on backstory.
It is. It's less action-packed, more about investigation and exposition. Essential preparation for the endgame. Harry uses this old potions textbook marked up by the Half-Blood Prince.
Which turns out to be Snape.
Right. But the core is Dumbledore, showing Harry memories of Voldemort's past. This is where we learn about Horcruxes.
The soul fragments.
The key to Voldemort's immortality. He split his soul and hidden the pieces in objects. Understanding this is vital. And then the book ends with that massive shock. Snape killing Dumbledore.
A huge betrayal, or so it seems then.
Leaves everyone reeling. Total despair. Which sets up the final book perfectly.
Deathly Hallows. And this one breaks the mold completely. No Hogwarts for most of it.
Right. It's a crest narrative, a war story. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are on the run, hunting Horcruxes, while Voldemort has taken over the Ministry, It's bleak.
And then there's the whole other layer of the Deathly Hallows themselves.
These legendary objects, the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, the Cloak of Invisibility that supposedly grant mastery over death, it's almost a red herring distracting Voldemort who just wants power.
But the climax brings it all back to Harry, doesn't it? The final Horcrux.
The ultimate reveal. Snape's memories, given to Harry just before Snape dies, show his lifelong loyalty to Dumbledore, driven by his love for Lily, Harry's mother.
Yeah.
And the devastating truth. Harry himself is an accidental Horcrux.
He has to die.
Voldemort has to kill him for Voldemort to become mortal. It's this incredible moral burden requiring Harry's ultimate self-sacrifice.
But he survives the killing curse again.
Right. It goes right back to the beginning. Lily's love, her sacrifice, created a protection in Harry's blood. When Voldemort used Harry's blood to resurrect himself in Book 4.
He anchored that protection inside himself.
Exactly. So when Voldemort hits Harry with the curse in the forest, it destroys the Horcrux in Harry. But Harry himself, tethered to life through Voldemort, survives. He comes back from that limbo state.
Able to face Voldemort finally.
And defeat him. Because Voldemort is mortal now. Then we get the epilogue, 19 years later. Shows the survivors, Harry married to Ginny, Ron to Hermione, their kids off to Hogwarts. The world's at peace. The cycle continues.
You know, what strikes me looking back is how Rowling managed to blend so many different types of stories together. It's not just fantasy, is it?
Not at all. That's one of his biggest strengths. Our research really highlights this. It's fantasy, definitely, but also drama, and very strongly a Bildungsroman, a coming-of-age story.
Rooted in that British school story tradition.
Absolutely. But then it layers in so much more. Mystery, especially early on. Political thriller elements later. Adventure, horror, even romance. It's a real mix.
Stephen King called them shrewd mystery tales, didn't he?
He did, and it's a great description for the first few books. They follow that Sherlock Holmes pattern almost. Clues dropped, red herrings thrown in. Remember Quirrell seeming innocent in Book 1 while Snape looked guilty?
Yeah, classic misdirection.
And it all builds to Harry figuring it out just before the end. It's intellectually satisfying for the reader. That mystery element fades a bit as the war narrative takes over, but it's key early on.
And the type of fantasy, it's not like high fantasy with elves and dwarves in a completely separate world, is it?
No, it's often called urban fantasy or low fantasy. The key is how it juxtaposes the magical world right alongside or hidden within the ordinary Muggle world.
Like Platform 9 at King's Cross Station.
Exactly. It grounds the magic in the familiar. They use Owlpost, which is just a magical version of the Royal Mail. You've got letters that shout, paintings that move, books that bite. It makes the wizarding world feel weirdly accessible, almost like you could stumble into it.
Very clever. And beyond the genre blending, there are deeper literary roots, aren't there? Allusions to myths and older stories.
Oh, loads. You see clear links to Arthurian legend, Harry pulling the sword of Gryffindor from the Sorting Hat when he needs it.
Straight out of The Sword and the Stone.
Pretty much. And his miserable childhood with the Dursleys, that's got strong Cinderella vibes. Neglected child, finds out they're special, escapes to a magical new life.
Even Hogwarts itself feels ancient.
It does? It's designed like a medieval castle mixed with a university, coats of arms, Latin mottos, the Great Hall feeling like Camelot's Round Table. And the research points to specific influences from French Arthurian romances, possibly because of Rowling's background in French. Things like using owls as messengers, having werewolves, the recurring symbol of the white stag or deer. These are motifs found in those older French texts. It gives the world a sense of history, of tapping into something older.
Which brings us to maybe the deepest layer of illusion, the Christian symbolism. That's something Rowling didn't talk about much at first.
She deliberately kept it quiet, yeah. Because as she said, it would give too much away about the ending. But critics widely interpret the whole series as a kind of Christian moral fable, like a psychomachia, a battle for the soul.
With Harry as a Christ figure?
There are strong parallels drawn, especially in the final book. Harry's willingness to sacrifice himself, his death in the forest, his resurrection, and then defeating the ultimate evil. It echoes the Easter story for many readers and critics.
And Dumbledore. Often
seen as a godlike figure or maybe a John the Baptist type. Wise, guiding, ultimately has to let the hero face the final trial alone. He embodies that wisdom and sacrifice.
But she made it explicit in the last book, didn't she, with the gravestones?
Absolutely undeniable then. In Godric's Hollow, Harry sees the inscriptions on his parents' grave and the Dumbledore family grave. They're direct quotes from the King James Bible.
What were they again?
On the potter's grave, it's from Matthew. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. about valuing love and connection over anything else.
Right.
And on the Dumbledore grave from 1 Corinthians, the last enemy that shall be destroyed is death, which Rowling herself said basically sums up the entire series. It's about confronting death, finding meaning beyond it, not through cheating it like Voldemort, but through love, memory, sacrifice.
So if you had to boil it all down, the core theme isn't really the magic, is it? It's death.
That's what Rowling herself has said. Her mother died quite suddenly, just as she was starting to write the first book, and she said that inevitably made death and loss the central theme, running through all 7 books.
And Harry's whole journey is about learning to deal with that loss, isn't it? From seeing his parents in the Mirror of Her Eyes in the first book.
Right through to facing the Dementors, which are basically embodiments of grief and depression, and learning to fight them.
The series really presents 2 ways of dealing with death, doesn't it? Harry's way and Voldemort's way.
Exactly. It's a stark contrast. Harry has to grow up, confront the reality of loss, understand that people live on through love and memory, and ultimately he has to accept his own mortality. That's presented as the virtuous path.
Whereas Voldemort?
Voldemort is defined by his absolute terror of death. His entire motivation is to evade it, conquer it, control it, no matter the cost. And that leads him down this horrific path.
Which brings us back to the Horcruxes. We should probably define those clearly.
Okay, so a Horcrux is an object, could be anything where a dark wizard has deliberately hidden a fragment of their own soul to achieve a kind of immortality.
And how do you split your soul?
The books say it requires the supreme act of evil. Murder. Committing murder damages the soul, rips it apart, and the wizard can then encase that fragment in an object. Voldemort does this 7 times.
7 being a magically significant number.
Right. But this act of fragmenting his soul makes him less human, less capable of connection, empathy, love. It's the ultimate perversion. And the contrast is that Harry's soul, despite all the trauma, remains whole, nourished by his friendships and his capacity to love.
And that love. The books constantly emphasize it as the one power Voldemort can't grasp.
It's positioned as the ultimate magic, really. Love is what distinguishes Harry, the hero willing to die for others, from Voldemort, the villain, who just doesn't comprehend that love can be stronger than death.
Lily's sacrifice again.
That's the bedrock. Her sacrificial love created that protection in Harry's blood. It's the old magic Dumbledore talks about. And the irony, as we mentioned, is Voldemort himself preserves that protection by taking Harry's blood. His obsession with power blinds him to the power of love.
So it sounds like a very clear good versus evil story, but the analysis suggests it's more nuanced than that morally.
It definitely tries to be. While the core conflict is stark, the series works hard to avoid absolute black and white divisions, especially with secondary characters. First impressions are often wrong.
Like Quirrell and Snape in Book 1.
Exactly. Or think about characters like Draco Malfoy, or even Kreacher the House Elf. They're not simply good or bad. The books emphasize that morality comes down to choices. Dumbledore's famous line, "It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities."
Which allows for really complex characters, Snape being the prime example.
Snape is the embodiment of that moral ambiguity. He's cruel, petty, deeply flawed, but ultimately motivated by love and loyalty, doing horrific things for what he believes is the greater good. His final redemption forces you to reevaluate everything you thought about him. Is he a hero? A villain? Both?
That ambiguity feels very deliberate.
I think so. It reflects the messiness of real life and real morality. It also ties into another key theme Dumbledore raises, the choice between what is right and what is easy.
And choosing the easy path is dangerous.
That's presented as the start of tyranny. Apathy, denial, like the Ministry ignoring Voldemort's return, allows evil to flourish. So the books become this argument for courage, for standing up against prejudice, for questioning authority when it's wrong. Rowling explicitly called them a prolonged argument for tolerance.
We touched on the sales figures earlier, 600 million copies, but the sheer scale of the phenomenon, the mania around these books, is hard to overstate.
It really is. That estimated $25 billion value for the whole franchise. Books, films, merchandise, theme parks. It's astronomical. Just the book sales alone generated something like $7.7 billion.
And the releases themselves became these huge global events.
Unprecedented. The last 4 books each broke the record for the fastest-selling book in history, one after the other.
Deathly Hallows. The numbers for that were just insane, weren't they?
11 million copies sold in the first 24 hours. Think about that. 2.7 million in the UK, 8.3 million in the US. The logistics were like a military operation. For Goblet of Fire, they used 9,000 FedEx trucks just for the U.S. launch day.
Wow.
And the initial U.S. print run for Half-Blood Prince was nearly 11 million copies. It completely changed how publishers thought about blockbuster releases.
And this dominance actually caused a stir with the bestseller lists, didn't it? The New York Times thing.
Yeah, that was a big deal around 2000. The Potter books had been dominating the main fiction list for like 79 weeks straight, often taking up multiple spots.
Pushing out other books.
Exactly. Some publishers of literary fiction complained. So the New York Times made the decision to create a separate bestseller list just for children's literature.
Which was controversial.
Very. Some saw it as sensible category management. Others saw it as snobbery, basically ghettoizing popular children's books away from serious fiction, a real cultural flashpoint.
And the demand was global, even before translations were ready.
Oh, yeah. People were so desperate they couldn't wait. The English edition of Order of the Phoenix, for example, actually topped the bestseller list in France because fans bought the original rather than wait for the French translation.
That's amazing.
It forced publishers to acknowledge the huge adult audience, too. That's why Bloomsbury started doing those dual covers, the colorful kids ones and the more adult photographic ones. And now it's translated into over 80 languages.
Including Latin and ancient Greek.
Yep. The ancient Greek translation is supposedly the longest work published in that language since the 3rd century AD. Just incredible reach.
So, massive commercial success, undeniable cultural impact. But the literary world, it wasn't all shears, was it? The reception was more mixed.
Definitely mixed, especially from established critics and academics. Early reviews were often positive, comparing Rowling to Roald Dahl, calling it magic stuff. But as the series got bigger, the backlash grew.
Harold Bloom wasn't a fan.
Famously not. The Yale literary critic Harold Bloom was scathing, called the writing slop, full of cliches and dead metaphors, basically dismissed it as poorly written pulp.
Ouch. And A.S. Byatt, too.
Another prominent novelist, A.S. Byatt, was equally dismissive, called the world secondary, derivative, lacking originality, said it was for people whose imaginations were shaped by TV cartoons. Pretty harsh stuff.
So there was this real tension, wasn't there? The critical establishment versus the reading public?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But plenty of writers defended it passionately, too. A.N. Wilson praised Rowling's Dickensian ability to connect emotionally with readers. Stephen King, despite some criticisms, called it a feat of superior imagination.
So debates about literary merit. But then there were deeper critiques, weren't there, about the social and ethical messages within the books themselves?
Yes, and this is crucial for a deep dive. These critiques question some of the series' underlying assumptions, even while acknowledging its anti-prejudice message on the surface.
Like the portrayal of gender.
It's a complex. Some early characterizations fit stereotypes, but female characters definitely grow in strength and importance. Molly Weasley's final battle role is huge. Hermione is obviously brilliant and drives a lot of the plot, but some critics argue she still primarily functions in service to Harry's quest, making her maybe not a fully independent feminist icon. It's debated.
The whole blood purity theme. The books are clearly against Voldemort's ideology, but does the wizarding world itself achieve true equality?
That's a key criticism. Since wizards inherently have power, muggles lack, some argue the model of tolerance shown is based on the superior group being charitable, rather than true equality between fundamentally different groups. The hierarchy remains, even if the good wizards are benevolent.
Okay, and then the really tricky stuff. The house elves and the goblins.
These are probably the most difficult elements for many critics. Hermione tries to liberate the house elves with SPEW, right? Her campaign for elf rights.
Yeah, the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare.
But by the end of the series, most house elves seem, well, still enslaved and mostly happy about it, like Creature. Critics argue this suggests freedom depends on the master's kindness, not the elves' own agency or systemic change. It looks like an unresolved critique of exploitation within the narrative itself.
So it raises the issue but doesn't fully resolve it.
Arguably, yes. And the goblins, particularly their depiction in the films, though it draws on book descriptions, has faced criticism for echoing anti-Semitic caricatures. The hook noses, the association with banking and finance at Gringotts, it's an uncomfortable aspect that has drawn significant negative commentary.
So important to acknowledge those critiques alongside the praise.
Absolutely. A full picture requires looking at the controversies and the difficult questions the series raises, intentionally or not.
Whatever the critiques, the legacy is undeniable. It didn't just sell books, it changed publishing.
Completely. It arguably reversed that trend towards realism in children's books and made fantasy mainstream, even dominant again. Publishers started reprinting older fantasy series because suddenly there's this huge market.
It became part of the fabric of British culture, didn't it? Like James Bond or Doctor Who.
For sure. And the language. Muggle, entering the Oxford English Dictionary in 2003. That's a huge sign of cultural penetration.
And Quidditch. People actually play Quidditch.
Muggle Quidditch, yeah. Running around with brooms. It was even an exhibition sport at the London Olympics in 2012. It's wild.
Even science got in on it, naming species after characters and creatures.
Yep. There's a spider, Aryavixia gryffindori, because it looks like the Sorting Hat, and a crab, Hairyplaxeverus. It shows how pervasive the references became.
Now, there was a big hope, wasn't there, that Pottermania would lead to a general boom in reading, get kids reading more complex stuff. Did that pan out?
The research is interesting on that. Studies, like one from the U.S. National Endowment for the Arts, found that while Potter definitely got millions of kids reading these long, quite complex books.
Which is great in itself.
Absolutely. But it didn't seem to translate into a significant overall rise in childhood literacy rates generally. Nor did it necessarily lead those kids to branch out much beyond fantasy or mystery genres. So it created a massive reading phenomenon, but perhaps a somewhat contained one.
Still, the biggest legacy might be the multimedia empire it spawned, starting with the films.
Warner Bros. Snapped up the film rights back in 1999, led to 8 massive movies between 2001 and 2011.
And Rowling kept a lot of control, didn't she? Especially over casting.
Famously insisted on a primarily British and Irish principal cast, which really helped maintain the feel of the books. Those films were huge, obviously, and paved the way for everything else.
Like the theme parks. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter. That's on another level.
It really is. Those lands at Universal Parks, Orlando, Japan, Hollywood, are incredibly immersive. Full-scale Hogsmeade, Diagon Alley, the Hogwarts Castle, housing the Forbidden Journey ride. It's probably the gold standard for adapting a fictional world into a physical space.
And they even preserved the film sets.
Yeah, the studio tours in London, near where they filmed, and now one in Tokyo too. They're basically museums showcasing the actual sets, props, costumes, a testament to the craftsmanship involved.
And the story didn't stop with Book 7 or Film 8. Rowling kept expanding the world.
She did. Wrote the screenplays for the Fantastic Beasts prequel film trilogy, and co-wrote the stage play sequel, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, set 19 years later.
But now we're seeing something else, aren't we? Not just expansion, but readaptation, telling the same core story again.
Exactly. Which is fascinating. It suggests the story isn't seen as finished, but something to be continually refreshed for new audiences.
Like the big HBO TV series that's coming.
That's the biggest news. Planned as 7 seasons, 1 for each book, set to debut in 2026. The aim seems to be a much deeper, more faithful adaptation than the films could manage.
And the casting news for that is already making waves.
Definitely. John Lithgow as Dumbledore, an American actor, which raised eyebrows given Rowling's old Brits-only rule. But he's spoken about exploring Dumbledore's complexities. Papa Isidore as Snape, Janet McTeer as McGonagall. And they just announced the new trio. Dominic McLaughlin as Harry, Alistair Stout as Ron, Arabella Stanton as Hermione, a whole new generation taking on these iconic roles.
And at the same time, there's a completely different adaptation happening too, the audio drama.
Yeah, launching late 2025, a full cast audio drama version of all 7 books. Like over 100 actors, Hugh Laurie as Dumbledore, Riz Ahmed as Snape, Matthew McFadyen Tom from Succession as Voldemort, Keira Knightley as Umbridge.
Wow, big names.
It's another huge undertaking. So you've got this major TV reboot and a massive new audio version happening concurrently. It shows this incredible commitment to keeping the original story alive, but in new forms.
It really confirms that this isn't just a franchise. It's become almost like a modern myth, constantly being retold.
The volume of ongoing adaptation is extraordinary, speaks to its enduring power. #tag outro.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really underscores that Harry Potter is so much more than just popular books. It's this incredibly complex thing, cultural, literary, commercial, a whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think what defines it, looking back, is that ability to blend so many genres. The school story, the thriller, the moral fable, while tackling these really profound themes. Especially that confrontation with death, powered by the idea of love.
It captured a moment, reshaped kids' literature, and basically wrote the playbook for multimedia franchises for decades.
No question.
Which leads to a final thought. We've seen the story go from books to films, a play, theme parks, and now it's being rebooted as this huge TV series and a new audio drama, constantly being retold, recast. What does that need to keep adapting this specific world? Tell us about how we see stories now. Is any truly successful story ever really finished?
Or does success guarantee it just keeps iterating, evolving forever for the next audience?
Maybe so. It seems like the cultural and financial weight behind something this big makes an ending almost impossible.
A fascinating point to ponder.
We'll leave you with that thought. That's it for this week's Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.